Mr. Anil Bamba, Chairman, Land Ports Authority of India, Mr. Pritam Banerjee, Logistic Sector Specialist, India Resident Mission ADB, Ms. Nisha Taneja, Professor ICRIER, Mr. Duncan Hettiarachchi, Deputy Superintendent, Sri Lankan Customs, Government of Sri Lanka, and Mr. Sandeep Kumar, Principal Additional Director General, Director of Analytics and Risk Management, Government of India. Thank you. May I please now request Mr. Bamba to take over the session.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. Good afternoon. So I have a very knowledgeable person with me. As far as LPI concerned, as chairman LPI concerned, the subject is very pertinent to us: border security, balancing security, and trade facilitation. My thing is that if we have a security only, then we can have a trade. If we can have a trade, then we can have a security also. We have two options are there. Because of some technical glitch, I could not able to show you the CD of two, Raxol and Atari. In Raxol, there was a trade was there, security was not there. We have developed infrastructure and now it's functional. Security and trade are there. Atari, the biggest example. For last 5 years, we are working in Atari. Not a single day trade is stopped because trade is moving there because of they want trade there. Security. So these are very important topic, and I have Pritam Banerjee, madam there from Sri Lanka, and Sandeep Kumar there. They are very knowledgeable person. But for this region, trade is most important. Right now, we have less than 5% trade through route. And as far as India is concerned, we have 15,000 kilometer land border with 7 countries. And biggest is with the Nepal and Bangladesh. And we have around 100 land custom station. And we already developed 6 land custom station to ICP, where all facilities are in one place. So next phase is that 13 more ICP will be there. 20 ICP, once it will develop, then we will cover more than 90% of trade and 95% of passenger movement. It will be secured environment. It's good for the trade also. Trade want that infrastructure should be there so that transaction cost is reduced. Otherwise, it used to be 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. They don't know how many days they have to wait because they are sitting on the road. We are creating infrastructure. They are in the secured environment, and every agency is there. And every agency is there, they have a good infrastructure also there. So, weighbridge is there, warehousing is there, parking is there, for diverse facilities are there. So, we need this facility on this region. So that from ICP or Land Port Authority, we are doing this, and we are receiving good response from our neighboring country also, from Nepal, from Bangladesh, Bhutan, they want and Jaigam, full cycle. So we are in close touch with all countries there. So, but balancing security and trade facilitation means trade facilitate only when there is a border security. And when trade is there, border will secure. Trader will secure the border because they need more trade because all passengers or movement or traders are there. They need some work to there. So I now open the floor. First I invite Mr. Pritam Banerjee. Earlier he was in DHL. Now he is a consultant to ADB, a very knowledgeable person. So please come.
So thank you, Chair, for those opening remarks, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I will not take too much of your time. I will focus on more the operational aspects of land border trade. And Mr. Sandeep Kumar from Indian Customs is here. He will provide a lot of details of how Indian Customs has really done a lot of good work in recent years in terms of being able to help land-based trade across South Asian borders, which is as Mr. Bamba correctly pointed out, still has a long way to go. The potential is enormous, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface. I will like to go back to my DHL days where, when I was in DHL, we did the first, what was called a trial run for cargo using the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicles agreement. And the idea was to have, behind this agreement is to ensure that trucks move seamlessly across borders. So basically an Indian truck can go to Bangladesh and onwards, a Bangladeshi truck can come into India, go to Nepal. That was the basic rationale behind that agreement. Of course, it covers more than just commercial vehicles. It covers passenger vehicles and other vehicles as well. Now, the first question that came up when the agreement was being conceived and negotiated was the idea of security. How do you ensure that when vehicles of one country moves into the other, carrying goods or passengers, how do you make sure that there is no breach of security? How do you make sure that the vehicles that come in actually go back in time to their origin countries, things like that. There's also concerns about how do you, when you come to the commercial movement of goods using these vehicles, how do you make it more efficient? The whole process at the border, both the regulation for the transport itself, the truck itself, as well as the customs clearance for the goods that the vehicle is carrying. So what we had, at that time, kind of ideally conceived of from our side was to essentially use technology to deal with the security issues. Our point was that the security concerns are legitimate, right? Concerns around using such agreements in movement of contraband, illegally traffic people, carry narcotics, put in, weapons. There's a huge array of security concerns that arise. So what is the best way of, addressing these concerns, in a serious way, but at the same time using technology to make it much more efficient? So the first thing, and with due respect to the enormous good work that Mr. Bamba and his organization is doing, we do need very good land ports. But I think the world is moving in a direction where you are less dependent on the border infrastructure itself. It's off border. So, especially for the movement of goods, even for passengers, people are moving to off border kind of governance framework, which means you have existing customs location inside the country, one particular country, which is closer to the exporter. He goes to that customs location. He uses advanced electronic seals to seal the truck. He has the GPS. The other technologies, I will not bore you with the whole list. There are things that you could do. You could map whenever the truck goes off route. You can, have alerts every time the truck stops for more than 3 or 4 minutes, and therefore there's suspicious activity. You can put, extremely cheap CCTV cameras in the truck where the goods are. So if somebody opens the door of that truck, it immediately starts taking autonomous pictures and sending it to you. So if somebody is trying to put contraband or traffic humans, you will get a picture of that. So there's a whole range of existing technologies that you already have, and they are not, according to popular perceptions, very expensive by South Asian standards. You can implement them, and therefore not do anything at the border. You can seal the truck, you can customs clear the truck at the inland border, in inland location. The truck can go to the border. Only thing that happens at the border is that people check whether all the seals are intact, everything is fine. It crosses the border within minutes. It goes to a customs location in the other country, and the customs clearance and everything happens at that location. And if you really want to take this forward, you can actually create a network. So you can allow this single truck not just to go, let's say, from a location in India, using the example of BBIN, a location in India, let's say Calcutta, go to Dhaka, and that's it. You can allow this truck to continue on carrying Indian domestic goods to northeastern part of India, to let's say Tripura, because going across Bangladesh saves you time and effort and energy costs. And so you can mix and match domestic and exim cargo if the authorities have the confidence to do this. A truck, for example, can come from Bangladesh carrying both Indian and Nepalese goods, drop off the Indian goods, then go on to Nepal and drop off the Nepalese goods. So by creating this network, you create the economies of scale to make this whole road freight network in this region very cost effective and efficient. That's what's happening in many parts of Europe, in other parts of the world, because even, something that Mr. Sandeep Kumar was actually a pioneer many years ago, that if you look at air freight rates, so you want to make your exports most competitive, right? So if you look at air freight rates, they have a logic of their own. Sometimes an exporter in Bangladesh might find his cheapest air freight to Europe out of Calcutta airport and not out of Dhaka. Sometimes the congestion in Dhaka is too much and he really needs to get his stuff out. So why can't, we have a system where he can put his stuff in a truck in Dhaka, truck it across to Kolkata airport, and it goes to Europe or wherever else it has to go by aircraft. So you create a multimodal network using these kind of framework agreements, and not having to do too much at the border makes it much more efficient in that case. So all of this is possible. I'm sure, as other speakers in this panel will also point out to you, the BBIN, while is a very ambitious and a very good idea, is still not, it's not rolled out, it's not implemented. Trial runs were done. We did the first trial run from DHL side. We actually took cargo for both Bangladesh and transit cargo for Northeast India. So our truck went and dropped off stuff in Dhaka, went on to Tripura and dropped off the domestic part of the goods in Northeast India. So it did both transit and international movement in the same vehicle. Then, again, leadership of Mr. Sandeep Kumar, there was a reverse run, which actually tested this idea of not doing things at the border. It went from Dhaka, came all the way to Delhi, and it was customs cleared in Delhi and not at the border. So demonstrations has already taken place. This is possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility in this region. It's about finding amongst ourselves, our policymakers, our business and trade to come forward and say, these things are possible. We have demonstrated them. Let's implement them and let's, get the ball rolling. Last point, you still need efficient land borders, because not all types of cargo can be sealed in a truck. So you'll have oversized cargo, you will have, break bulk cargo, and therefore you need some modicum of an efficient land border. We need to do a better job of, identifying these locations where we need to invest the kind of quality infrastructure. The challenge with borders, land borders, are that if you don't have equally good infrastructure on both sides, there's a bottleneck at the other end. So it has to, match each other. And one, when I talk about it, sometimes with the South Asian audience, people find it a bit too radical, perhaps, but it's not. It's being done across the world. To actually combine the customs of both countries under one roof, it is not impossible. Instead of having an Indian land border and then a Bangladeshi land border, but to have one very nice, good infrastructure land border from where customs of India and customs of Bangladesh, other agencies sit under one roof. There's a process integration that happens, and instead of duplicating the process of export clearance in one end and the import clearance of the other, you do it everything. You probably would half or even lower the time you need to go through these processes. So all of these are interesting ideas. I think somewhere we need to find the political will. I'm very glad Mr. Kumar is here, because he has been perhaps one of the, in that way, a radical thinker who has tried to push in government these ideas to implement them. And he will, I'm sure, share his experience of the roadblocks he had in trying to get it done. Thank you very much.
Now I invite Madam Nisha Taneja, Professor, Indian Council for Research and International Economic Relations, to give her thoughts.
But I must say that, all the answers are with Mr. Bamba and with Mr. Kumar. So in that sense, we have very, very little to say. And, but, whatever we gather through secondary data and through our interactions with businesses is what I'd like to share with all of you. I think enough has been said since the morning about the importance of connectivity in the region and how it is very important for the production networks to flourish through connectivity. and this, so it's not just the production networks which are regional, but it also, better connectivity will help in having these production networks linked globally. So when we're talking about regional connectivity, we're actually talking about an ideal situation where we have seamless transportation, in which goods and payments are secure and where people can move freely. We have borders with Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and Myanmar. And these kind of vast land borders make us vulnerable to insurgency, illegal migration, and smuggling. And also, each border is unique in its characteristics. So in that sense, the challenges are huge for all the government agencies to deal with. And many of these problems are historic and have carried on for decades. And, for instance, let's look at India, Pakistan. We still have manual checking, but I'm told that, full body scanners are going to be implemented very soon, by this month, in fact. But since 2007, we've been eagerly awaiting for, this trade facilitation measure at the border, because, so far, every consignment has to be checked manually. So this is a huge, cost in terms of both money and time for consignments to move back and forth. Let's look at the India-Myanmar border. Here the challenges are different. It is basically the social groups and the insurgent groups which actually block trade and cause a hindrance. So there are several checkpoints where there are different kinds of checks that are imposed, and yet these social groups have, we don't understand how they're able to do this, because they're very deeply embedded and to uproot them is very difficult. And they're able to actually, extort a lot of money from the trade to facilitate movement. So how do we deal with these kind of challenges is, whether it is just technology or whether it has to be beyond technology to tackle these problems is the challenge. So if we talk about security through the designated official trading points, then we find that basically at the land borders, the technology has not really become part of facilitating goods. But if you look at the seaports, we've made a huge progress on this front. So clearly the challenges at the land border are far more severe. And the challenge is to strike the right balance between managing border security and facilitating the movement of goods and people. I'd just like to discuss a little bit about connectivity challenges before I get into the technology part, because we've not made much headway, for instance, in the BBIN motor vehicles agreement. We don't understand, for instance, what the challenges are, and maybe we could hear about it on what the real challenges are on the ground. Also, like BIMSTEC, connectivity is a significant part of the agenda. And I want to draw everyone's attention here to an ADB study which has just been brought out recently, where they have updated an earlier study in collaboration with the BIMSTEC Secretariat. And what they do is assess the transport and logistic environment in the region. They identify hard and soft infrastructure projects, and they suggest an effective institutional mechanism to implement the policies, strategies, and priority projects. So I think this is a very, very important document for all of us. And what the study suggests is that to implement these through transport agreements, it is the sub-regional initiatives which are likely to bear fruit. Also, what the study points out is that the national road development plans should include border access roads, and member countries should coordinate their road planning for better connectivity in the region. The study also makes some important observations, which is that, for instance, they point out that rail connectivity projects have not done very well, and it is therefore not worth pursuing them, most of them. But where they've been very effective has been in the case of landlocked countries when they're trying to get access to seaports and inland container depots. Also, the role of inland waterways they point out, is not very significant, and it has a very small role in the case of India, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, and therefore we shouldn't be giving undue emphasis to inland waterways. Now coming to the role of technology. Technology is the core of all processes and procedures related to trade facilitation, and paperless trading, including risk profiling, forms the basis. In fact, the UN has adopted a framework agreement on facilitation of cross-border paperless trade in Asia and the Pacific. And this treaty has been signed by Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, Armenia, and Iran. And so it would be, I think, all the countries in the region should take cognizance of this agreement. The ESCAP has identified 27 measures of paperless trade, and they have tried to map these with the regional trade agreements. And what they find is, what they've pointed out is that the TPP mentions 21 paperless trade measures. The WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement mentions 5, India-Korea FTA mentions 6, and India-Japan mentions 3. Now, the Trade Facilitation Agreement does emphasize the role of technology, but it is limited. For instance, some examples are the single window and having transparent policies and procedures which require the use of internet-based technology. So the region should be aiming at TFA plus commitments in the area of paperless trade. And here I think India has made a huge headway. If we look at the Trade Facilitation Action Plan that India has brought out, we'll see that we have made short-term commitments in many of these paperless measures. So we're headed in the right direction. Also, I think adopting some of the international best practices which are technology-driven would be very useful for all members. One of the earliest conventions was the Kyoto Convention, and we very early on became signatories to this to the convention, and something like risk profiling was adopted in very early days by Indian customs. Now, the TIR convention is something which I wanted to bring everyone's attention to. This is basically a road transport convention, and it facilitates seamless movement of goods under a single khane, which serves both as international customs document and proof of guarantee. So basically, to cover for risk management throughout the journey, the convention is establishing an international guaranteeing chain, which is managed by the International Road Transport Union. And the IRU is also then responsible for distributing this carnet. So if we look at the BIMSTEC countries, we find that as of now, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Thailand are not members of the TIR convention. India has become a member recently. And interestingly, on the western side, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and several Central Asian countries are members of the TIR convention. So if you're looking at connecting eastwards, then I think all the eastern members should consider becoming members of the TIR convention. And ultimately what we're looking at is not just connecting eastwards, but also connecting westwards with each other. So there is a lot at stake, and therefore all member countries should consider this. Also, I think the advantage of adhering to a global convention is that no one country is a leader. It is a global practice, and everyone just follows the guidelines and meets the requirements. And that, I think, should be very palatable to the smaller member countries. Now, I think when we're talking about measures to ensure a balance between security and trade facilitation, the Indian government has put in place a number of measures to safeguard its borders. What they've done is they've deployed manpower for safeguarding borders, streamlining processes of border control and management, and also using technological controls to strengthen border management. We need to do more. Firstly, technology is required for smart border management, which includes smart identity management. So it wouldn't be very difficult. Like what Pritam said, we have all the technologies, we have the databases. It just needs to be put together. But what we'd like to know from our officials here is, like, what are the real challenges in in adopting the smart identity management. I'm sure there are compelling ones, and therefore we haven't been able to do that. Also, smart inspection systems and security and surveillance systems. Second, what is required is technology for collaborative border management, which brings together all security agencies and industries to work together on designing processes that would allow legitimate trade and cargo to move and at the same time protect the border. So basically what we're saying is that right now it's all happening in silos. So customs is adopting the technology systems, and other agencies are adopting their technology systems. So how can there be a a horizontal integration of all these systems so that there is the maximum and most efficient use of technology? And so therefore, what it means is that there should be information flows across all agencies, and horizontal risk profiling across all stakeholders needs to be done. And thirdly, the same principles can then be extended to cross-border cooperation. And here again, there would be challenges, I'm sure, which we'd like to hear from Mr. Kumar and Mr. Bamba. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Mr. Duncan from Sri Lanka. So, we will present.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our vision is to make Sri Lanka a rich country. We will do so by transforming Sri Lanka into the hub of the Indian Ocean with a knowledge-based, highly competitive social market economy. The structural transformation necessary to achieve this vision is currently underway. We will strategically position Sri Lanka as the hub of the Indian Ocean, securing opportunities for local businesses in global production network. This will position Sri Lanka as an export-oriented economic hub at the center of the Indian Ocean. The trade facilitation initiatives have been taken by the World Trade Organization. The success of these initiatives depends on how they are relevant to customs, administration, and response. WTO agreement on trade facilitation is an important tool for economies to improve their business environment. Sri Lanka has established the National Committee on Trade Facilitation. Customs is playing the key role of this project. Other government agencies, business community, and private sector is gathering under the same umbrella. There are basic elements that are essential for trade facilitation. First one is the transparency. To establish the transparency, customs should publish trade regulations, ensure dissemination of information relevant to trade, provide advance rulings in customs matters, and establish a mechanism to review decisions. Sri Lanka Customs has established ICT infrastructure for linking with the Trade Information Portal. We are providing advance rulings on classification, valuation, and consumer protection matters. Second element is simplification. We have included the provisions under the Customs Ordinance that enabling the electronic payments. We are developing and publishing procedures for use of the electronic payment system. Post-clearance and audit branch was established to facilitate legitimate trade. We have conducted a time-release study and identified the bottlenecks of the clearance procedures. Second phase of the study will launch at the end of this November. Implementation of digital signature and paperless trade is in progress. We are using the harmonized tariff classification system. The RKC is the blueprint for modern customs. We are simplifying our clearance procedures and documentations according to the RKC. Our valuation methods are comply with the WTO valuation agreement. We have ensured cooperation and effective exchange information between customs authorities in each countries. Customs has been responsible for implementing a wide range of government policies: revenue collection, trade compliance and facilitation, prevention of prohibition substances, protecting of cultural heritage, and enforcement of intellectual property law. So there is a need of focus on identifying both compliance and non-compliance levels. Sri Lanka Customs has established a risk management unit. Risk management tools are used to maintain the balance between control and facilitation. Automated selectivity program uses risk management tools, which also include risk indicators to analyze and assess the potential risk. Depending on the selected risk levels, consignments will be routed through different channels for customs examination. Sri Lanka Customs have Central Intelligence, Central Investigation, Revenue Task Force, and preventive directorates for law enforcement activities. Single window is a crucial factor in trade facilitation. Single window project of Sri Lanka Customs launched in 2016. We could integrate all importers and exporters, customs brokers, agents of carriers, terminal operators, freight stations, and all of the banks. But we couldn't draw together other governmental border regulatory agencies under one umbrella. There were three categories of government agencies as automated, semi-automated, and non-automated. Sri Lanka government launched a new project that is the National Single Window. This project will build the infrastructure and fill the technological gaps among government authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Now I can invite my good friend, Mr. Sandeep Kumar. He's a Commissioner Custom. He's in this area for last so many years. And I congratulate him that our each to doing business in cross-border, we reached to 77. And Finance Minister saying we can reach next year 50. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anil. We've had a long association, some run-ins, some good laughs. Pritam is again a very old friend, and I personally regard him as a thought leader in terms of how our department saw things, how we moved. Pritam's association has been very fruitful, and he has influenced my thought in many, many ways. Actually, I have also one correction. I'm no longer Commissioner Customs. I'm now a Principal Additional Director General. That's okay. But I spent 8 long years at that desk on regional connectivity. So I probably know a lot, and if somebody asked me to speak on this subject, I would request for about 2 hours. I have to spend about 10 minutes here, so I obviously cannot do justice. But I'm, in any case, very privileged to share my thoughts. In fact, I'd say that having left the ministry 2 months ago, I've had an opportunity to stack up things a little better. And you sometimes, when you get away from the subject, you develop more thought clarity. So perhaps these 10 minutes would be more useful in sharing what my department sees as a way forward here. The topic that we are discussing is, security and connectivity. The topography. When we talk of the BBIN agreement, we are talking of about 8,000 kilometers of border and unique border. In fact, I don't find much of credit being given. I see a lot of studies coming out there, glass half full, many others I've seen, and never impressed with anything. Sometimes you find something brilliant, like Madam Nisha did something on Nepal, and an issue on insurance came up, and I worked hard and consistently on trying to sort that out. But otherwise, I think that people don't have the full stack view of what's actually happening out there. It's probably too difficult to get out there and try and understand things. If you limit yourselves to interaction with intermediaries, you are going to get a very distorted picture. Because as I'm going to come down to a case study we've done, we've realized who the villains of the piece are. And having said that, we must realize the challenges that we face in terms of these unique borders, which are something that I can extol as a huge virtue. India, Nepal, India, Bhutan have absolute free borders. Something like this, I mean, probably one, sees only maybe in Canada, US or something. We have a free border. There are people who actually live on that side of the border and work on this side of the border. That's just amazing. And you do not need a passport to travel. That's amazing. All you need is some kind of ID document which somebody has. Maybe it's a voter ID card on the Indian side, maybe it's a driving license on the other side, it works. Vehicles move freely between Nepal and India. In fact, Nepalese and Bhutanese vehicles have a right to transit. If they have to go from place A to B within Nepal, and because of the terrain or in Bhutan, it might be taking more time, they go via India. So you cannot have a more utopian border than exists. Very less is said about it. I urge the researchers to actually look at these things and be able to advocate them properly. Which, incidentally, advocacy is so important. We tried to do many good things in customs over many, many years, but this year we've really done it. So I think we are really on the right track. We improved some, 67 spots to come from 146 to 80 in our customs rankings. India's ease of doing business is improved. So we're obviously doing something right. We have the right formula, and we're very happy with that. And there's obviously been a lot of appreciation from the trade, some good things said in the newspapers, and we thank the trade for all their cooperation. So coming back to the issue of security, the way my department's vision is, I'm sorry, because of paucity of time, I can't really stack it up how we got there. But it was actually Pritam who brought up this issue that look at the convenience of the trade first. And what does the trade want? The trade doesn't want to be traveling 2,000 kilometers to a border point where the facilities may be very inadequate to even make an overnight stay to sort out a matter which might relate to something about logistics, cross-border clearance, or anything for that matter. What he wants is clearance right next to his place of business. And, I woke up to that thought. And I realized that the entire concept of putting up inland container depots in India was to bring customs clearance closer to you. If you were in Delhi, we didn't ask you to go to Bombay to get your customs goods cleared. Those goods were transshipped and they came to Delhi, and you could actually get your container cleared from Delhi. So with that thought, we started working on this concept of an off-border clearance. Which I'm very happy to say was, got shape. Things in the government, it's a large machinery, many moving parts, take time. But we got it in place in December of 2017. I'm very happy to say that it works very successfully. Businesses are now clearing their goods at an ICD in Durgapur, intended for Bangladesh. They are doing it in Kanpur. I believe more recently there has been an expansion of this particular scheme. And we might be looking at people in Gujarat, and there are some very big, exporters in Gujarat and in Punjab who are a part of the Bangladesh value chain on garments. And they are going to be exporting goods directly from their places of business right up till Petropol. Now, the good thing is that these are all being actually GPS tracked. They are being electronically sealed. So we have date and time stamps on what's happening. And we always had these large number of complaints which said that crossing the Bangladesh border was a 15-day effort because there was so much of congestion. Happy to inform you that for whatever information we've got, from the time that the goods are actually reaching the land customs station or the ICP at Petropol, to the fact of the customs process being completed is taking all of 8 hours, because we have stampings in terms of, when the goods entered, we can see it on a GPS, it's geofenced. So it's been very educative, it's gaining in popularity, it's bringing home the concept what Pritam always wanted, that business wants that comfort to go to a place, because not only is this a one-time export, there are a lot of other things associated with it. There are their export benefits which they have to get, there are their IGST refunds which they have to get. So it's not a one-time situation that, you have exported something and that transaction is over. Every transaction has actually multiple contact, might get required, and a business obviously feels comfortable with that. So the way my department views the facilities, presence of all other departments, how well established the procedures are, off border is the way to go. And what we see happening at the border is to address the concerns of security, qualified to the extent of the 8,000 kilometers that I was talking of. From the legitimate points of trade, when the trucks are coming in, we need an immigration point and we need a scanning facility. Barring these two things, we don't want anything there. So we will do it at places which are closer to the businesses. And I think that BBIN has been a movement in that direction. Right now, for example, Bangladesh, India do not have road rights. So that means if I am sending my goods across to Bangladesh, I can just go in about that kilometer to the land customs station where the goods must get offloaded and onloaded onto a Bangladesh truck and then go onwards. What we're now looking is a concept where the goods can be loaded at the consignee's yard. It's a consignee yard situation. They come right up to your factory gate. So given that scenario, again, the customs clearance obviously are going to happen both sides closer to the points of origin. So once we look at smaller scale of border facilities and more targeted towards security, we'll probably be able to do far more coverage than presently what we have. We've got 6 which have been modernized. Another 72 are functional but not modernized or maybe partially modernized. And there are about 20 or 25 of them which are in pretty remote places where there's no trade at all. So given this topography, we feel that India and the region in terms of resource utilization, economy and expenditure, public money is very scarce, would benefit a lot. I'll now just move on to a very interesting case study. I have there'll be a gentleman, Mr. Satish Reddy, who would be coming in, former colleague. He is with the Asian Development Bank, and I'm sure I'm stealing a bit of his thunder, but since he's addressing in the plenary session, there'll be more people. He will definitely touch upon this subject. We started doing this electronic cargo tracking, as Pritam had mentioned, in terms of transit of goods from Calcutta to Nepal. And obviously, Nepal's our very dear, friendly neighbor. They were always concerned about the delays that were taking place in transit of goods. They described themselves as landlocked. We wanted to make them feel land-linked. And we requested the Asian Development Bank. Both governments agreed, which shows the resolve to sort out trade issues. So both governments agreed and asked the ADB to select a technology partner who could bring in a system of electronic tracking and digitize the entire transit traffic. So that project started sometime in April. And we always take ginger steps because, sometimes our constituents get pretty upset about certain costs and certain things. So both governments decided that we'll introduce it as a voluntary program. You will be surprised to know that in 3 months' time, nobody used that facility. There was a lot of advocacy which was done. I did not attend any of those events, but I know that ADB organized events in Calcutta, in Kathmandu, in Birganj. They were all done in nice hotels. They were all well attended. So they were probably thinking that the people who are actually coming are going to be users. Now, users, as I have discovered now, are highly dependent on intermediaries. And intermediaries in South Asia thrive on opaqueness. You bring visibility, you bring transparency, you bring digital stuff, his revenue model's gone. So they all ganged up, and I have feedback and evidence to that effect. They all ganged up and said that if we start using this particular service, pardon some of the foreigners here, it's a start of Uberization, and the black and yellow cab is gone. So they all decided they will not use this service, and it never got used. But as I told you, the resolve of the governments is strong, so they decided to do another phase. And they did it this time around from Vizag port. And Vizag to Nepal is about, I think, 1,600 kilometers. It's one of the longest transit hauls in the world. They did that. And they again did it on this electronic cargo tracking, and they took the intermediary out. They said that this is a transshipment modality. For those of you who are a little familiar with customs concept, It's not transit driven that somebody who's an importer in Nepal has to come and take clearance here. The shipping line will undertake to put these goods on a train and they will send them to Nepal. Dramatic impact. Now the intermediary is gone. Immediately there were representations in the government that this is causing loss of jobs. I mean, seriously. And how does the cost, document and time get affected? The Nepalese were filing in as many as 8 documents, I think, going through what they used to say. Shyam Dahal is another counterpart colleague there now with the ADB. He said there were 31 procedures and 22 signatures involved. Everything down to 0 because they were no longer involved. The shipping line was doing it. They didn't have to hire a transporter. They didn't have to hire a custom clearing agent to get those goods out. The shipping line was doing it for them. So we had 0 documents. We had time, I think, was cut down from an average of 20 days, which it took to clear the goods from Calcutta and transport them over 600 to 900 kilometers to Nepal, down to 9 or 10 days. So there's a 50% improvement in terms of time. Document has gone to 0. Cost has effectively gone to 0, except for obviously the shipping lines charges. So that has been a very encouraging dynamic. It has taught us where the problem is. And I request all the researchers who are here, please stay away from the intermediaries if you want a real stock of what's happening at the border. The tragic part is that, which I of course came to know, again, no personal interaction, that all the events which happened, the actual importers or traders who are coming, they don't invest any resources in trying to learn what is happening or keep themselves abreast with the reform. Which is maybe fair. As an entrepreneur, I think he probably doesn't have time. He wants to market and sell his goods. He's not concerned how they're cleared. But he's so intermediary dependent, and the intermediary is not trustworthy, then who's going to save you? So this case study has been an eye-opener for all of us, and I'm very happy to share this. I'm sure the Asian Development Bank speaker will probably have far better inputs to give, because I have moved away since last 1.5 to 2 months, so I have more anecdotal and hearsay things with me than actual reports, because I'm not in the line of reporting there. But privileged to share this with you, privileged to share it with the other panelists, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, sir. So now we will go for online questions. Okay.
You can read, sir.
How can a border security encourage the legitimate free movement of goods and people? So, who to answer? How can border security encourage the legitimate free movement of goods and people?
I think if you have all the systems that we have been discussing during the deliberations of this panel, if you have all of the systems up and running, in that case, you create enough confidence in the enforcement agencies and regulators that the trade that is moving is indeed legitimate. It is not, engaged in anything that is detrimental to the security of the countries across borders. Once they have that confidence, they have no reason not to allow seamless movement of goods. They have no reason to delay processes. So I think once you have that ecosystem in place, you will definitely be able to achieve both the objectives.
May I just add to that? Yes. There's a very nice 9-minute film on regional connectivity, which I did alongside with ADB. The only person soundbite that is there is Mr. Pritam. And it has picked up 4 great case studies to show you how a regional value chain is thriving in what people say are not very easy borders to transact business. So in that film on YouTube, it's I think called Connecting South Asia. Yeah, I think it's called Connecting South Asia. And we in fact request Cuts to actually put out that link for everybody to see. We picked up the case of Marks and Spencer. You see, Vardhaman and Arvind, they're two big exporters to Bangladesh. Garments have been made in Bangladesh. People like Zara and Marks and Spencer who are here, they're importing those goods from Bangladesh and of course the rest of the world. The goods are going out and they are selling them in the best malls in India. They chose that value chain because they knew they could manage. I know from my personal experience, Inditex has a time limit of entire cross-border trade being completed, which is in 12 days. And Pritam, you mentioned about the Bangladesh transshipment. Board approved it last week, and probably a circular gets out today. So we'll be seeing goods coming from some of these manufacturers of garments straight out by road from Petrapur to Calcutta and going. We are talking of containers going right up to JNPT. So BBIN notwithstanding, we found ways to do that. I then picked up a case of Reliance, that's not Reliance Industries, Reliance in Nepal. He exports to 35 countries. His for PFI, I think he makes some product again in the textile industry. And entire product is imported. Factory is thriving in Nepal. He is the largest single employer. So again, a great story. The Lafarge cement plant, that's also in that movie. Another great story. Foreign investment in Bangladesh in terms of the cement plant. Entire raw material comes from India on a conveyor belt. On a conveyor belt, not by trucks. It's the second longest conveyor belt. You get to see that in the film, in the world. And both customs administrations had agreed to this as a transport and customs clearance solution in 2006. I was there. So, so I think all these wonderful examples, including Pran, in Bangladesh becoming a very true multinational, I would say. They've got a huge amount of business happening in India. The oranges come from Bhutan. And the oranges are crossing 2 borders, plus transiting through India, reaching fresh enough to be squeezed. These are glorious examples. So I think that what we've generally been deficient in is not being able to advocate that the glass is full. It's not half. Thank you.
Thank you, Pritam. Thank you, Sandeep. Just I want to add one more thing. We need basic infrastructure on the border. Right now, we don't have any basic infrastructure on the border. And government is spending money on basic infrastructure on the border. Because right now, custom is doing a trade border crossing. They don't have warehousing. They don't have checking. They don't have a diverse area, anything. Because they are sitting on the road with a 200 square yard or 400 square yard office. They need basic infrastructure. That's why government think that LPI should be there to build some infrastructure. So we need basic infrastructure because I visited 2 years back. France and Switzerland having basic infrastructure, 20 acres. Norway, Sweden having basic infrastructure. Singapore, Malaysia is having basic infrastructure. We need basic infrastructure out of city. Because right now we are sitting on city. They know nothing. That if we have infrastructure, only then we can have security. And only then we can have a business. My point is this. Next question is, how can government engage the local community to guarantee best practices? How can government engage with the local community to guarantee best practices?
I think this is, best practices is something that the government needs to adopt rather than citizens. Because it is basically the regulatory environment which the government has to ensure the regulatory environment and the traders have to comply with it.
I will add something. Actually, I think that local community may be general public, government officials, and the business community. Strategic training plans for human resource development will help to cultivate the best practices among government officials. Especially in customs, there are lots of capacity building programs. There are code of conducts, code of ethics to improve government officials. This will introduce anti-corruption methods to the government officials, as well as the change management and leadership development. Programs improve the ability to change and accept the challenges. Awareness programs will help to improve general public and business community.
Thank you. So next, I have received question from Madam Nisha. They say, what are the ideal practices to be followed for the balancing border security and trade precision in South Asia? For you. Online questions only.
It's a full paper.
So,
I think basically it's so what we're looking at is the use of technology at the borders, and I think if we're able to do that, and if we're able to implement those across all segments, across all agencies, we should be able to strike a good balance between trade facilitation and security. And I think the big challenge right now is how do we do risk profiling at the land borders? How do we ensure, for instance, that something like the EDI or the electronic systems work on the land borders? In some places they are in place, but they don't function. So how do we get all these things is a big challenge.
the next question, Mr. Duncan, that how can Sri Lanka address the various border risks originating from its transport corridors?
Yes. Actually we have three levels. First level is legislative base. It provides a necessary basis in law. Second level, we include effective consultation arrangements and clear administration guidelines. Next level is compliant assessment. For example, pre-arrival import clearance, physical examination, documentary check. All these are included into the third level. For identified non-compliance, there is a range of enforcement strategies, like forfeitures, penalty enforcements. For recognized compliance, customs can reduce regulatory examinations, less reporting requirements, simplified procedures, and increased level of facilitation.
Thank you. The last question is border protection and trade facilitation, are they two compatible? Sandeep, this pay answer. Border protection and trade facilitation.
There is no question of incompatibility. There is no question of incompatibility. Both have to go hand in hand, and that is why all over the world, all that is being written and researched about is to find the best ways and means, find the best tools to be able to achieve that balance. And this whole concept of running risk management systems or running these authorized trader programs, AEOs as the WCO language calls it, or going further, like TIR was mentioned, about the authorized haulers program. Anything associated with KYC is all related to being able to effectively balance both these things, facilitation and border security, and achieve an optimal outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Now floor is open. So I will have first hand there. Please.
My question is to the Sri Lankan representative and all the experts. In 1415, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, the road transport minister, proposed a land-cum-road bridge connecting India and Sri Lanka, which will improve connectivity, will include business, will include people-to-people exchange, and many things can happen, unlimited opportunities. So there has been some resistance, unknowing, I don't know much from the Sri Lankan side. So can you elaborate on that? Tell us why, what, how, yes or no. I mean, what is your view on it? Whether would you like to have on the side of security, border management, or whatever, a bridge, a land-cum-rail bridge connecting Sri Lanka and India?
Actually, my personal opinion is I like to make the bridge because then
Comes with a
yeah,
disclaimer. Personal
this is
opinion.
my personal thing.
I agree.
But there are several factors. Most of the security factors. Then we should rearrange our legal system to face on this one. As well as there are cultural factors. Most of the people, sometimes most of them may not accept these things. Actually, we should have a little big survey on that. Personally, I like to that bridge. Thank you.
So tell us, I mean, okay, again, your personal opinion, in your personal opinion, how these, whatever hurdles we are pointing towards.
Personal opinion can be discussed at the tea.
No, let him say on record from the dais. According to your personal opinion, let's go ahead on that only. How these hurdles which you are mentioning, security and cultural and others, can be overcome, and a better connectivity, a superb connectivity between Sri Lanka and India can be established through that land-cum-road bridge.
Yes, actually, if we build the bridge, our international trade will vastly improve because we have the clear connection with the India. But it will take some times to tackle all other communities and other factors, security factors, cultural factors. We will see what will.
I just want to add, if they will have a road and rail bridge, Sri Lanka will gain because they are heavy port which handle master ship. We don't have any port. The Trivandrum coming, but our goods can go to Sri Lanka by road and from there master. Otherwise, we are sending with a small ship to the Dubai or Singapore. That's increasing the cost of transaction for our business. But it will take, because they have to take the political decision, this and that. But it will be a win-win situation if we have a road and transport, whatever you are suggesting, that they will think forward. Okay, thank you. My friend from here. Yes.
Hello. Hi, I'm from Manipur Chamber of Commerce and Industries. And thank you very much. On 8th of August, it was historical for Manipur to have get open the 6th land port in India, which connects the whole South Asia with Southeast Asia, including CLMVT countries and China. And as far as security concern is concerned, I think Dr. Nisha has mentioned about the Indo-Myanmar security concern, which is a little bit unique and unusual. Apart from that, if we go back till 1st of December 2015, for about a decade, Manipur and Myanmar border, there was a border trade on barter system where the trade had reached a level of about $52 million per annum. At that time, the Indo-Myanmar trade was about $1 billion, so it was probably about 5%. But since that 1st of December 2015, the formal trade went down to zero. And unfortunately, even after having opened the 8th of August, the land port there in More, still the formal trade is still at zero. I'd like to put forward to Mr. Kumar and Mr. Anil Bamba, which is my opportunity. What has happened is from 8th of August, unlike before, from India, if you had to go to Myanmar, the only places where you could get your visa stamped was Yangon airport or Mandalay or maybe Mysore and Thailand. But from 8th of August, now you can get an e-visa where Indians can travel through Myanmar and to Myanmar. But unfortunately, there are three things happening. One, for the Myanmar citizens, they cannot come into India on e-visa. We have had situation where our friends from Mandalay were coming down for a trade visit and had to go back all the way to Mandalay, this is just last month, to get the visa stamped. The second part is Myanmar is still yet to offer us the transit tax system whereby if you get goods from outside, maybe Thailand, we have to pay the Myanmar tax and come in. Now, when you talk about LDC, which is Myanmar, for example, right now trade is happening on a suitcase trading basis on the head. But as far as battle nuts are concerned, for example, in spite of, I think, a lot of requests, the custom duties are very, very high. 40% custom duty is what is being paid on battle nuts. So we'd like to harmonize the custom duties, and we'd like to put forward a lot of things to be done. Even that off-the-border situation could be another solution in taking into a context security problem at the border to be implemented. There are long way to go for the actual trade to happen. But however, from the Chamber of Commerce and from Ministry, I was just happening to meet Mr. Pritam for the DHL because the state government is planning to work on a logistics policy. We'll be requiring the support for that. However, I would like to put forward our representation from time to time, and I think this is the best opportunity which I have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just like you have mentioned the concern, two joint secretaries are there today to discuss these issues. Joint Secretary Border Management from Ministry of Home Affairs and Joint Secretary Bangladesh and Myanmar from the MEA. They are visiting Tamu to discuss these issues. So we have created facility there. We know that this is on Asian Highway. This will create huge opportunity for Northeast and basically for Manipur and other people also. So we have created infrastructure. Now we are talking to Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of External Affairs, Home Ministry, and then Sandeep will answer from the revenue. But I will say they are also in a good touch. They have very, we say very efficient commissioner there, Vanna Deri. She talks to me daily. They are putting an online system there. They are putting an EDI system there. We are providing all help. I think in 1 or 2 years, this More and this Imphal and other Northeast area will prosper. Thank you. Now, Sandeep, you want to? No. Thank you. Next, yes.
Thank you. I'm trying to think a bit out of the box here. I think having listened to our experts and their thoughts, very insightful, with a lot of experience, Mr. Sandeep Kumar has stated things, and then there was Pritam who gave the other side of the story, what is happening in the the application of digital technology to our trade. I think South Asia, in general, some more than others, they have made the presumption. I think when we do all these kind of regulations and managing intra-regional trade, I think the presumption is there's always malfeasance in every transaction. Now, this presumption, I think, is problematic, and that is what really creates all the difficulties that traders face, producers face, consumers face on the other side, and it ends up raising trade costs. And at the end of the day, it's consumers in South Asia who really pay for these high costs. Now, rather than doing that, what it does is they think, every transaction is risky. So put checks, at every stage. Instead, if we thought that trade is actually beneficial and people gain from trade and traders have to make a profit out of their transactions. So they are driven by profits. But it doesn't mean that every trader is trying to cheat the system. So if you could estimate the benefits rather than the risks involved more, then I think we would have a more seamless system. We will move towards a more seamless system. We can move towards a more seamless system through the application of digital technology that Pritam talked about. But I think we'll move there faster because we are only trading $23 billion out of a total South Asia trade of $965 billion. So we are certainly not moving fast enough. And therefore, I would think that, yes, the glass is more half full than it's full. It's certainly not full. I'm sorry to disagree on this particular point. But we are moving. We are moving, but we are moving rather slow. That is what keeps South Asia trade underperforming.
Thank you very much for your point. If we have infrastructure, like on Petrapol, this is a very big issue for India-Bangladesh. I receive 650 trucks per day from India. Bangladesh can accept 2 years back 300 trucks. Now they are accepting 450. So we bring down the transaction day 10 to 6 days. Now, 3 days ago, I was there in Petrapol. Now they acquired 25-acre land next to my ICP, means zero line. If they can accept trucks, you believe 200 chases we are sending. Bangladesh is not having a truck facility, manufacturing facility. For them only. I told them this is for you only. You create infrastructure. From my side, I agree with Sandeep. They can clear 8 hours. I say they clear 2 hours because in the night, because now we are working 24 hours. Miss, LPI वहाँ आ गया है. For last 3 years, we have close interaction. In next room, Bangladesh Land Port Authority chairman is sitting there. I am talking daily. I am talking to Bhutan. I am talking to Nepal. Because we need basic infrastructure.
That's correct.
If we have infrastructure, only then we can promote trade and we can secure our borders. If we didn't have any infrastructure, we can't secure our border, we can't promote trade. Like I am giving one example. 2012 Atari was operated. In 1 year, 100% trade growth was there.
I don't know what Atari is.
Atari is in Pakistan border. We have only one land border. We have 2 land border in Nepal, like ICP. Most are there. Means we need basic roads facility, basic infrastructure. Only then, so that, like your question, if we now my complex is fully CCTV camera, weighbridge, warehousing, diver rest area, toilets, etc. Custom can perform their duty more efficiently because they don't, उनका जगह ही नहीं थी बैठने के लिए. They don't have space to sit and check. But we need basic infrastructure. Only then, now you are going with your truck, you have a document, and they are all infrastructure there. So you will get, trucks are clear in 2 hours, 3 hours. In Agartala, we are clearing in 1 hour Bangladesh trucks. Earlier they used to stay there for 3 days. Now, means their export is increasing. Our import means our neighbor country, they want that we are more export than import. Now, within 2 years, Bangladesh export is increasing now because all government factories are there. Now we are sending fabric, etc. But we need basic infrastructure. Once basic infrastructure is there, then trade will be respected and they will given proper space they should have. My thing is all this.
And taking Pritam's point, everything should be done behind the border. I mean, we should have containers move from, doorstep to doorstep. That's what we need to go to.
Means 90% trade is the border only. They are not coming to Delhi. They are not coming to there. Our goods are going from Atari. Our goods are going from Gujarat, going from Maharashtra and other. But Bangladesh की जो goods है वहीं पे रहता है. There is no space. But we need basic infrastructure of border any day, anything. There is nothing. We are handling only 5% trade. It can give to 20% of India trade. Thank you. Any more questions? Yes.
I'm Professor Ipoh Almighty from Manipur University. Again, I just would like to know a couple of things. One is about the cross-border trucking facilities. Of course, we are focusing on BBIN and also extending such kind of a facility to BIMSTEC, including Myanmar and Thailand. Is there any possibilities of this one multimodal transport system with the cross-border trucking facilities? That's one. And number 2, ASEAN is also playing an important role with the trading activities with India. And that way, some of the products, when we try to import to India from ASEAN countries, if it is coming by roads through Moderator sector, then there is a problem of transit trade. Whatever is a product from Thailand or the member countries of ASEAN, they treat ASEAN member nations as one entity. And that's why the country of origin of the goods, it can be from any of these members, can be treated as one, whether India is accepting it or not. And in fact, we found certain difficulties while doing the importing of things from these countries through these land ports. So if you kindly highlight on that, it will be of immense benefit. Thank you.
What you were importing must have been betel nuts because unfortunately nothing apart from unhealthy betel nuts seem to come.
Betel nut is one, that's why from earlier 5%, it has been increased to 40%. That is the one issue. But about the other aspects from Thailand or any other, so if the goods are moving by road,